divorcing my husband because he's voting differently than me.
The women making videos talking about they're gonna go vote to cancel out their husband's vote for Trump, I need y'all to go to the attorney's office after and file for divorce. Because what do you mean you're going to cancel out? You're aware that your husband's voting away your rights. He don't give a damn about you having bodily autonomy. Please go file today.
Listen, apparently this is a thing. Apparently it's a thing that happens pretty often around election season. Now, more recently than in the past, because the past few elections have been a little bit tense. You have spouses out here who disagree when it comes to which political candidate they support. So what happens? Well, for some of them, apparently they just decide to get divorced altogether. I feel like if I shared these stories without giving you guys the proof, then you most likely wouldn't believe that this is actually happening. So this all started with the trend of wives who are posting videos of them dancing, heading to the polls, bragging about how they're canceling out their husband's vote, right? And they're facing some criticism for a lot of people who are looking at them sideways because they believe you should be divorcing that man.
All of the women out here who keep posting on TikTok and are like, on my way to cancel out my husband's vote, are you okay? Are you being held hostage? Because the way you couldn't waterboard it out of me that me and my husband are voting differently, not just differently. In this election, it's differently. Like, sis, what are you doing? What are you doing? Divorce that man. Don't go cancel his vote. Go file those divorce papers. When I tell you, when I found out my ex-husband was a Trumpy-loving supporter, it was over. There was no chemistry. There was no nothing. We were done because not only did we just not get along, we had different moral values. How are you going to raise your kids like that? And for you to be on the internet making a little tee-hee ha-ha joke about it, I'm concerned. Are you being held hostage? Do you need help? There's a lot of things we can negotiate on, but moral and ethics and what we're going to raise our kids' values on, that's not it.
Drink the coffee. It'll make you feel better.
What do you do when you're voting for Vice President Kamala and your spouse is voting for Trump? Like your spouse is literally voting against your rights as a woman. How does that work? So, Carolee, I do have one friend who is going through this situation.
Right.
And her husband is telling her, well, I'm the head of the household, so you're supposed to follow my lead. Sir, I don't know if you forgot who you married, but we're all very feral. We don't follow. That's for peasants. It's funny because there are some men, not all, who are voting for Trump, who see themselves as alpha males and see their mate as a subordinate, when in fact, you are married to a beast. So much of a beast that cruise that you guys are supposed to go on this summer won't be.
Hold on. She just say beast? She said beast, right? Why she said beast. That there are men out here married to beasts. I've said that one time and I thought, Chisha, you really need to calm down on these videos. You're going a little too hard. That's a little too much coffee. Now I'm realizing they're calling each other beasts, right? And I'm talking about when it comes to, she's calling them subordinates, but you're talking about dynamics where both parties agree, right? A woman values the man as the head and the woman values her role as the helper. You're saying you might be married to a beast.
Happening because we're in the midst of planning her divorce party.
Oh, shit.
From you. Side note, I do not promote getting divorced just because you have different political views. But I do promote getting divorced if that person is bad for your overall health. Carry on. And I have had this conversation many times before with many people that religion and politics is also something you need to consider when entering a relationship, not just a marriage. Because when you're in a climate like the one we're in now, the shit matters. And trying to be silent and not argue to keep peace in the house just because you don't want to have a broken home, that's some bullshit. I also know that there are a lot of women who cannot leave their relationships because of financial obligations or because of financial illiteracy. It's okay. There's always somebody that you can turn to that can help you out of it. But know this, having to silence yourself to keep your partner happy,
right?
That's not a relationship. That's not love. Making sure you walk on pins and needles so that your significant other won't get mad or so you can have a good day in your relationship with them, that's not worth it. You can do better alone.
You can do better alone. Listen, let's calm down. Everybody calm down. Chill out. Let's come back to reality. Even though I told you guys that the majority of the videos, like I'm talking about that trend, were wives talking about canceling out their husband's vote. There were also other people doing it, right? I saw people doing it about their sister. Oh, going to go cancel out my sister's vote. They were doing videos together, like brothers and sister, or a woman saying, going to go cancel out my mom's vote. In what world do people think exists out here where everyone in your circle is just going to think the same way you do and agree that that's the way life is? What world is that? You got to think of the type of person who wants a world where everybody agrees with them. Don't get this mistaken for foundational values that two people who are entering a relationship and or marriage need to make sure they're aligned on, right? Foundational values. I talk about this in Brew Brothers Community of Men Who Value Marriage. Click the link into the top of the comment section and join. You can learn all about that, especially if you're a guy who's considering marriage. Foundational values are important. But I bet you the reason why they're able to make those videos is because they know I'm not about to divorce my husband over this political climate and situation. Because at the end of the day, they probably agree more on issues than not.
I've been seeing the trend of the women that are like, going to cancel out my husband's vote by voting blue for Kamala Harris. Like, I mean, I feel you, but also, if that man's voting for Trump, he is actively voting against you and your rights. Let's make that clear.
So what? Divorce? Come on, man. What, you
God forbid you got daughters, nieces, sisters, any other women in your family. He's voting against all of y'all. This ain't just differing on tax policy or, immigration reform, prison reform, infrastructure. These are moral differences. J.D. Vance said the man's vote for the family should be enough, as in the women shouldn't get to vote. Those are your rights. The right to choose, abortion bans, like, this is your health care. He's actively voting against you. Let's make that clear. Maybe leave them. Well, I'm not advocating for divorce.
It sounds.
As long as you're happy.
Listen, I know he said I'm not advocating for divorce, but let's be honest, that's what it sounds like. Yes, I believe, especially before you enter a relationship or marriage that you want to last long term, you have to talk about things like religion, politics. How do you define marriage? What does marriage look like to you? Does it look like a man being the head of the household, or do you want an equal partnership, which in my opinion is not the best dynamic within marriage and relationships? Cut them off then, right? Leave your wife, leave your mother, leave, because people act like people don't change. People act like people don't change. You may stand on something right now or see something a certain way, and later on realize, you know what, I was wrong about that. And this mindset of divorce your husband really proves that, because I know they wouldn't agree with the cut off your mom, your family, your grandma. There's a chick who's talking about her grandma here. We're going to check that out. I know they wouldn't agree with that, which just shows you that they don't look at the husband as part of the family, right? The husband has become the man of the household in today's modern day, has become more disposable than ever. He can go. But I bet you wouldn't cut your kids off. You would try to talk to them, understand, explain, do your best to maintain relationship. Why, oh, those are my babies. I think it's crazy, especially when it's a situation that can be worked through.
Y'all tell me what to do. My grandma just called me and she was like, hey, will you take me to go early vote today? And I was like, I'm kind of busy. She doesn't really drive anymore. She's like in her 80s. And, I know that like she voted for Trump in one of the past elections, but she's been talking lately about how she's thinking about voting for Kamala. And so I just don't know, because I'm in real estate, so I need Trump to win so the real estate market gets
Ma'am, take your grandma to go vote, even if she's voting for Kamala. Just take that poor old lady to go vote.
better. And like, what would y'all do? Would you take her to vote? Because like, if I don't take her, she probably won't vote. But at the same time, you know, I gotta look out for me. So I just don't know. Like, if I take her, is she gonna vote for Trump or is she gonna vote for Kamala? So should I ask her more questions? I don't even know if she would really tell me either way at this point, because she knows that I want her to vote for Trump. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if I should just tell her I can't or if I should take her. What would y'all do? If your grandparents wanted you to take them to vote, but they were voting for the opposite party, like, would you still take them? Because, like, I know that I probably should, but that's canceling out my vote. So, I don't know. Y'all tell me what to do.
I tell you what I would do. I would definitely take my grandparents, even if they were voting opposite from what I'm voting for. There's a certain amount of honor you got to have for the people in your life. Maybe you guys would disagree. Comment down below. I'm curious to know. But you know what else that video reminded me of? There's another video of a woman who was complaining about how her son is voting for Trump and just how devastated she was. And she was talking about how he's seen strong women grow up. He's seen single mothers in his household. He's strong. We took him to the best schools. We really invested in him. He's an outstanding individual. He's never had to struggle. And he's really seen strong women all around him. She was devastated that she raised up a young black man who can think for himself. And I don't know how society has gotten to a point where they at least can't respect somebody for being able to stand for what they believe in. I have a son. I will do my best to teach him the things I've learned in hopes that he can also avoid the same failures and hopefully can see the same type of positive success in his life. If he came up to me later on in life and says, "Hey, Dad, I understand. You know, I see how you look at relationships, marriages. I understand, but I disagree." I would ask him, "Tell me why you disagree." And if he laid out a thought process of how he views the world and we had a conversation and ultimately he believed what he believed, overall, I would accept that, hey, if that's the direction you want to go, cool. Listen, I'll be devastated, right? You don't drink coffee, son? Do you know who I am?
I don't drink coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
But at the end of the day, if he stood on his beliefs and principles, I would be at least proud that I raised somebody who's hopefully a decent human being who stood for something in his life. And I would have been proud if I was that mother instead of being highly disappointed and alarmed.
Do you know any couples who have divorced because they have different political views? I do, but I'm a family law attorney, a mediator, and a divorce attorney, and I've been doing this for 22 years, so I have seen it all. But the first time I saw a couple divorce because of politics was in 2016. Before that time, people might note that as an interesting anecdote, but it wasn't really the reason that they were getting divorced. That started with Trump's first election, and in 2016, he ran against Hillary Clinton. And then I didn't see it again for a while, and then saw it again in 2020. There were also different opinions about how to handle COVID that really divided families during 2020 as well. And now that this election season is heating up, I am seeing people talk about this again as a reason that they are getting a divorce. So here's my question. Do you and your spouse have different political views? And if you do, how do you make it work? And if you didn't, would that be enough for you to divorce them?
That's a good question. Guys, I shoot that question to you. Comment down below. What do you think of this whole situation and conversation? Are you in this situation? I'm curious. As always, I appreciate you checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.